Yep, baby. Hello there, people. How's it going? All right. We're going to start our show in a few minutes. So stay with me, and today we'll do patterns number two. Recognizing patterns in chess is very important. And today we're going to have a view and try to pick up something. This is the Punk Monk Z show. This is the place to be to do chess. All right, then. So who is here? Who is here? Talk to me. Baby, who is here? All right, then. So we're going to start soon. We're going to start soon. And this will be our first position to look at. And let me pull it up. And yes. All right, so how does this work? How does this work? We have a checkmate here somewhere. And let's look at the position. We have two rooks and a bishop. Our bishop's under attack. But it's our move. It's our move. And materially speaking, we're down material. In the long run, we're losing. So we have to do something very quick. Very quick. And to find the quick approach, we have to use power moves. And what are power moves? Power moves are checks, captures, or check in two, or capture in two. So those are power moves. Number one, check. Number two, capture. Or level number three is making a move to prepare a check or a capture. Yes, sirree. All right. So in this position, we'll be looking at the strongest forcing move, which is a check. And we do have a check. Yeah. And what's going to happen after the check? Well, the king has to go, right? Here. And now it will be our move. And if our rook moves, for example, the bishop is going to give a check to the king in the corner, right? All right. So depending where the rook moves back, the queen might take the bishop. All right. So if the rook comes back to g2 to hold the bishop, right? Black can always play f6 to block the check, so it doesn't reach the king on h8. So that's the way it looks. So then what do we do? All right. So we have two rooks like this. We can sacrifice one by doing a double check. So if we play check, king goes in the corner, we can do a double check. And when the rook is here, is attacking the king in the corner, and so is the bishop at the same time, right? So the king has to take the rook, and now we have a open g file, and rook on a can go to g1, and there'll be a check and a mate. Okay, let's put this into practice. All right, so we only have one check, so I hope it works. Rook takes g7 check, king goes in the corner, and now double check. The rook is attacking the king, and so is the bishop. Okay, so king will take the rook, and now rook to g1 is check and mate. Okay, and the bishop shuts down the escape square, and the bishop here and the rook attack that square, and the rook attacks g8. Okay, and this square is occupied, this square is occupied, that square is occupied. All the squares are on the king are shut down, and this is a checkmate. We have a mating net, or a box mate. And that's the way this works. That's the way this works. All right, so let us move on. Let us move on to the next one. And let's go. And let's go to the next one. Let's see what we can find. Now this one is kind of pretty easy. Okay, this one is pretty easy. All right. Now what's interesting here is that black is threatening to do checkmate by taking on a2. The king can never run because of the bishop being there, cutting down on c1. Okay, so but the good thing is that white is on the move, and we have now two advantages here. We have a bishop on the long diagonal, and we have the rook on the open h file, and the rook and the bishop converge on h8. So this is a pattern to know. Okay, when you have a rook on the open h file and a bishop running through the long diagonal, the rook and the bishop meet in the corner, and we can deliver checkmate. And that's how easy this is. And this is checkmate, yes. And this square is shut down by the rook. This square is shut down by the bishop, by the rook, and by the bishop. And these squares are obstructed, and therefore all the squares are on the king, including the square the king is on, is shut down, and it is checkmate. So this was pretty easy. It was pretty easy. And any questions? Any statements? Any declarations? All right then. Let's see what we can find in the next diagram. Let's see what we can find. All right. Let's take a look at this one. Look at this one, and let's see how this works. All right, so materially we're down in exchange, right? Everything else is the same, and we have to do something fast because black has more material, and black is going to trade down and win with the difference. So we need to do something quickly. Our piece is very active, and we have to make this active situation pay off. Now, so we have to use the power moves. Okay, we have to use power moves, checks, captures, or check into or capture into. All right, so what are the checks? We have a check here, we have a check there, and we have a check there on those squares. So there are three checks. Okay, and let's say we don't know which one works, so let's use the method of elimination. Let's see what doesn't work. Okay, and whatever's left over will hopefully work. So let's find the bad moves since we don't know what a good move is. So let's look at this. If queen takes on h7, king is going to take without a queen, and I don't see how the remaining pieces, the rook and the knight, are going to do anything. And that's that. All right, so that move is bad. All right, so the queen moves bad. If I do play knight check here, okay, queen can capture, and therefore I lost a piece for nothing. What is the point of this? It makes no sense. So the only thing left on the board really is the check on e7 with the knight. All right, and so we play, let's say, knight here check, and the king goes in the corner, and the king now is frozen on h8. It's frozen. Okay, and the only thing that's protecting the king is the pawn shield in front of the king. Yeah. All right, and the queen has access to h7, and therefore making contact with the king. So this h7 pawn is the wall that protects the black king. All right, and notice that the king on h8 is frozen. Okay, cannot move because the knight on e7 shuts down the g8 square. Right. Okay, so after queen takes h7, king takes, and rook to h3 check. Yeah, that seems like a mate. Yes. All right, let's take a look at it. Okay, let's take a look. So check, king is frozen, and whenever a king is frozen, that's a good sign. You should be looking for some kind of sacrifice to get to the king. Okay, so the king is frozen. All right, so if you just imagine that this h pawn was gone, okay, rook can go to h3 and we mate. Yes. So now the question is, how do we open h file? Okay, so we have to make a hole in the wall by sacrificing the queen, and that's what happens. And then rook over check and mate. Okay, so king is attacked, so h7 is shut down, h6 shut down, so is h8, knight shuts down g8 and g6, and there's an obstacle on g7. And if you look at this position, all the squares around the king shut down, the king is under check, and the king cannot fight, the king cannot run away, and the king cannot get help. So this is checkmate. So this was pretty simple. Okay, and I'm not sure if I can add anything to this. All right, so what did you pick up from here? Okay, well, if you know the pattern, you don't have to think what to do. The pattern suggests the moves for you, and you just kind of, it flies through your mind and you see the end result. But if you don't know the pattern, then you have to use the power move method, and the power move method is a component of three types of moves: checks, captures, or checks, captures, and check into or capture into. Okay, so those are the three type of moves. All right then, very good. Okay, captain. No, well, no, I didn't compose. I got them from books. Um, um, yeah, I have a collection of books, and I look at what is useful from them, and I put it together. Um, Sometimes I change the position from the diagrams, and I present it here. And the positions I pick up, I think, are quite useful uh, to know, because you can, learn the pattern very quickly, or you can apply the power move method, and you'll be able to solve that problem. Anyway, so cap. Oh, tau. Is a cap tau? Yeah. Well, welcome to my stream. I'm Punk Monk Z, And if this is your first time, it just might be, press the heart button and follow me. And yeah, there's a lot of stuff you can pick up here if you're not a master. And yeah, welcome. All right then. So let's move on to the next one. Let's move on to the next one. Uh, Let me see. Now this is kind of very similar to the one we did before. And if you look at it, maybe, just maybe, you'll be able to pick up what the pattern was. Okay? So anyway, so do you remember a previous pattern of a previous puzzle we did? Okay, I mean we have a bishop on a long diagonal, right? Okay, and then under important ingredients to have an open H file, but this H file is not opened because black has H7. Okay, but we can open H file by using forcing moves, the power move method. So we can take on H7, right? Black has no choice than to take back, and then we swing the rook to H3, and now we have open file. And now when the king goes back to G8, the rook on H3 and the bishop on D4 converge on H8, and that'll be checkmate. And so let's see how this works. Okay, so the power move method is check, it is a check, and check again, it is a check, and check again, it's a mate. Okay, so this is pretty easy, no? Okay, the king is attacked, G8 is shut down, H8 is shut down because the bishop supports the rook, G7 is shut down by the bishop, and H7 is shut down by the rook. And the other two squares around the king, F8 and F7, are shut down because those squares are obstructed by zone pieces. So all the squares around the king, the black king, are shut down, and is a check and mate. Okay, so again, the basic pattern here is the bishop is no longer diagonal, and by sacking the queen you can open the H file, and the rook is going to go to the H file, join the bishop, and mate in the corner. So that's pretty simple, no? So memorize these patterns. I think they're very important. Hey, hi. There, Twitch. Oh, welcome to the stream. And if this is your first time, if it is, press the little heart button, join the Monk Z, follow him, and yeah, I'm there Twitch. Thanks. Okay, super. All right. So we're looking at patterns. This is pattern number 2. Earlier today, I did pattern 1, so you can go back and look at it. And this is pattern 2. And then probably later I'll do pattern 3 at some point. But yes, so these are very important things to know. And it's kind of interesting. I mean, they really help you, okay, become a stronger chess player. And it's kind of strange, in a way. I wasn't very good at tactics, I think, when I was a master, but my tactical ability, calculation ability, and things like that were not on par with things that I was good at. And then all of a sudden, some very good books came out on tactics, and I was able to digest them. And so anyway, so I'm just kind of sharing with you guys maybe some of those positions, and if you can memorize them and then understand them, okay, you become a better player, I believe. It surely helped me. All right, so let's see. So this one is done, and let's go to the next one. The next one, let's take a look. Oh, this is an easy one, but a cute one. All right, let's take a look at what this is about. All right. Okay, so who can tell me, guys? Who can tell me? Oh, cool. Okay, very good. Okay, so who can tell me how to play this position? Okay, tell me what you think. And there's no wrong thoughts. And then when you have done explain to me what you think, what is in your mind, okay, then I'll share with you the way I see it. Okay, and then when we're done with this, I think we have a better grasp Okay, how this works. All right. So I'll give you guys a few minutes. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Yeah, the queen is basically extracting the king. Okay, and that is correct. And the queen, if it takes here on g7, so queen is attacking g7 one time, and king is defending g7 one time. So the ratio of attackers to defenders is 1 to 1, which means that the queen cannot take on g7 because to win, the attacking group has to be bigger than the defensive group. Right now it's even 1 to 1. Okay, so it doesn't work. Now, so now that gives you a hint what to do. You need to bring in a second attacker, right? Okay, so now the question is, how do you bring a second attacker on to attack g7? Of course, f6. All right, so let's do this. So now what happens is you play this move f6, and now you're attacking g7 twice, right? With a pawn and the queen. And it's only and black is defending only one time. So the ratio attackers to defenders is 2 to 1. That means white is winning. So the only way to defend this, okay, is to disconnect the queen from g7. And the way you do that is to play here. All right? And now the queen somehow has to go to g7, yes? Okay, how does that happen? How does that happen? So that's the next question. All right? Any thoughts? Oh my! Oh, so you listened to this before? Come on, get out of here! So you saw. Oh yes, yeah, yeah. I'm redoing this a little bit because I put this all on Twitch. I had several videos, and eventually those videos expired, and then all of a sudden I had a bigger following than before, and I want to share this. So I think eventually I'm going to put it on YouTube, so it'll be saved, and you guys can watch on YouTube if the time lapses on Twitch, and you can watch it. Yes, queen goes to what? H. Yes, to h6. Okay, but what H? You said H. Does it go to H? I mean, H. There are two squares the queen can go to on H. Which square does it go to? Okay, so if it goes to H, I mean, it can go here, and it can go here. So which of the two do you think is the better one? Yeah, yeah. Okay, that's a good question. That's a very good question. Okay, does it matter? I think it does matter. I think I'm not sure. So here, here, here. Yeah, it does matter. For example, I mean, if you choose this move here, right, to come in here, okay, this can be played to shut down, to shut down. And now if I slide in here, you can come here to prevent it. Okay, um, maybe. And if you play something like this to break in, then the queen will join the party, maybe with this move. Okay, now it's getting complicated. Okay, and black is able to set up some defensive setup. So it does matter. So what you want to do is to play in such a way. Yeah, you have to play in such a way where you don't give any kind of counterplay to your opponent. Okay, no counterplay. So let's go back. So you see, I mean, it was correct to play f6. This is forced, and now this. Right now, okay, look at this. Look at this. Okay, now look at this. Let me go back and use the kind of force method to explain this. Okay, so ratio on g7 is 1 to 1. Okay, by playing f6 is 2 to 1, and black plays g6 to cancel that ratio, and now it is white to play. Now, if we're looking at if we're looking at the power move method, okay, we're looking at checks. I mean, I don't see any good checks except, this is a check, but it sucks. What's the point of this? I mean, we can even take this way, and white is lost. So there's no checks, okay? And is there any captures? There's no captures, okay? And now, so the three levels of power moves are checks, then captures, and then check in two. So now, so this is check in two. I play I played this move. This is move number one, and this is move number two. Check. Okay, it's made. And it's a little bird. You're right. It's a little bird. So the queen is the head. the pawn is the tail. It's a little bird. Or actually, I kind of thought of something else. This could be a branch, and this could be a fruit. Okay, this is a little branch, and this is a fruit. So you put the fruit on the branch, and voila, checkmate. Okay, so now we have two little stories: the little bird and the fruit. Okay, okay. So I'm going crazy. Okay, I'm kind of going nuts with this, and yeah. So there you go. Um, this is a simple one, so I think you should know that you know how to give a check with the queen and pawn. And what you do is the pawn is like a spear. Okay, you shove the pawn in the pawn wall, black's pawn wall, and the pawn now is anchored like a spear. And then you have to bring that piece to hang on the pawn, either as a piece of fruit or the bird's head or something like that. And that's the pattern. And so whatever works for you. Okay, you might use geometry to explain the pattern. You might use a story to explain the pattern, and all these things are triggers. Okay, when you see similar positions, you know it's going to trigger something to create a particular pattern. Yeah, so this is good. Okay, and yeah, if you think of something, if you recognize a pattern, geometrical pattern that you think you recognize, or you can tell a little story behind the moves, share with me, and maybe then I can steal it from you, and yeah, it becomes my own piece of knowledge, and I can share with other people. Yes. Okay. So there you go. Now let's see what else I can find here. Let's see what else I can find here. Let's find something of more value. Okay, and I like this one a lot. I like this one a lot. And let me just show it to you, and we'll go from here. Okay. Now, let's say if you know the pattern, then you know the pattern, and you don't have to think. You can play the moves, and voila, and it's checkmate. But if you don't know the pattern, then you have to use power moves. Another thing you can use is king lines. King lines. And what are king lines? Basically, look at the king and see what squares are shut down. So this square is shut down. This square is shut down. This square is shut down. So is this, and so is this. Okay. So there's only one square, E8, that the king is breathing on. All other squares around the king are shut down. And the E8 square happens to be a white square, correct? All right. Okay. Now, okay. And now, okay, now you do get a clue. For example, what piece might be involved in attacking the king, and that piece is a piece that controls the white squares. You see that, because the king is on a white square. Okay, so who controls white squares? The bishop and the queen. So maybe one of these two pieces might be able to give checkmate, because the king is in the same color as the bishop and the queen. Okay, we know it's not the rook. Well, we know it's not the knight, because the knight is shutting down e7 and d8. Right? We know it's not the rook, because the rook is going to take too long to do anything. Okay, so it's not this. And bishop is a dark square. Bishop is not a white square. White square. The king is on a white square, and the bishop controls the dark square. So by deduction, we know it's not the bishop. Knight will take too long to do anything. So will the rook. Okay, so by just kind of looking at this, we have eliminated a lot of pieces that are not going to participate. Okay, in the solution. All right. So by deduction, it has to be the queen on the bishop. Okay, has to be queen on the bishop. Okay. Now, can you just imagine if I mean, just imagine that this pawn on f7 was gone, right? Can you imagine what the solution might be? Okay. Now, the way you can tell if the pawn is on e if the pawn on f7 moves, let's say, disappears, okay, like this, okay, and the king will then have, okay, if the pawn disappears, notice, let me see, oh my goodness, okay, I'm sorry, let me see if I can fix this again. All right, this is what I'm doing. Okay, so if the f7 pawn disappears, you see that, like this. Okay, so the king is standing on a white, the black king is standing on a white square, and can exit f7 another white square. Okay, so the king now has two squares. The e8 square the king is standing on, and the flight square f7. Okay, so let me just do this and get rid of this, and I want to just demonstrate. Okay, this position with the king on e8 and the flight square f7. Okay, now if you connect the dots, like here, connect the dots to here, here, this is a diagonal on the white squares. All right. Okay, now what piece can shut down this diagonal? Well, it could be the queen or the bishop. All right, the queen cannot go. Well, I guess the queen could go. I can sack the queen and put the bishop there. But anyway, let's do it simple. So if the pawn, if this pawn is on this, if the pawn f7 pawn disappears, then you can play bishop to g6, and we'll shut down this diagonal. Okay, which is f7 and e8. Okay, so what am I trying to do here? What am I trying to do? So, so I'm trying to give you a hint, for example, how to kind of process this information and try to find an answer if you don't know the pattern. Okay, so how do I make the pawn on f7 disappear? Okay, that's my next question. Okay, so yeah, okay, but remember the forcing move method. Okay, if I play here, if I play the bishop here, right? Okay, that's not a check and it's not a capture. All right, all right. Do you see what I'm saying? Okay, according now to our hierarchy of power moves, the first thing we look at are the checks. Okay, so when we examine all the checks and they do not work, then we look at captures. If the second level fails, then we look at moves like maybe bishop to g6, and this will be a check in two moves, right? So the bishop will go to g6 first move and take on f7 on the second move. Okay, but even before we, excuse me, even before we consider check in two, do we have a check in one? Do we have a check on the move? That's the question. Okay, you see that? Do we have a check on the move? Now, you should be looking at the position. It doesn't matter, for example, that you have to sacrifice a queen for a pawn or whatever. Okay? The only question is, do we have a check? Yes or no? Okay? Now the check might seem ridiculous. It doesn't matter. Or you have to kind of examine it to see where it leads. Okay, no ideas? All right, so let me show you. All right, so you can play queen takes. That's a check. You see that? That is a check, right? And with a check, notice that the king cannot run. Shut down, right? Shut down, shut down, shut down. See? And the queen is hitting the king, right? So he has no choice than to take the queen. And now this diagonal is open. And now you can put the bishop to g6. And this is checkmate. Now, so the knight shuts down these two squares. The bishop shuts down these two squares. And the rest of the squares are shut down by obstruction. Okay, so all the squares around the king are shut down and it's checkmate. Okay, so what can we get from this position? What can we get? Well, first thing, if you know the pattern, it's a easy peasy lemon squeezy. And if you don't know the pattern, then you have to use either get some information from the king position, and then you have to kind of see what squares are eliminated and what squares the king can go to, and that information that info could be useful. And then you have to use the power move method to force things. Okay, so those are the three clues I can give you. Okay, how to find the solution. All right, so again, queen takes e6 is a check, and then bishop to g6 is a check. So the power move method is made in this position of two checks that lead to checkmate. Here we go. Move number one, check. Yes, that's a power move. Move number two, check. Yes, it's a power move. Okay. Another thing I should add is that what is it? I don't know. It just slipped my mind. Yeah, I don't recall for the moment. I had thought that I was going to share with you, but it ran. Okay, before I could grab it. But anyway, so let's move on to the next one. Let's move on to the next one and see what I can get from the next one. Let's take a look. Okay, so this is pretty easy. But you know, when I say easy, things are always easy when you know things. Okay. So look at this position. Um, Black is threatening a rook. The rook is not protected. LPDO, loose piece, drop off. But the good thing is that it's white on the move. Okay, so it's white on the move. Okay. And yeah, I mean, you can look at this position and say white is better because he's on the move and he has a bishop versus knight. Bishop in an open position is superior to a knight. And all the pieces seem to be active. Okay. More active than the rook on f8. Okay. So yeah, and it's white to play. Now, how do we proceed? How do we proceed? Do you have any thoughts how to proceed in this position? Okay. How do we proceed? Now, let's say you don't know what the pattern is and you don't know what the solution is. So what do? Well, you'll use the power move method. And what is the power move method? Okay, you list all the checks. Okay, list all the checks. So make a mental note of all the checks. And how many checks do you think you see here? How many checks do you see? Okay, that's the first question. How many checks do you see? Let's take a look. Well, here's a check, and this is a check. Okay, so the queen and bishop are competing, okay, to make the move. All right, so the rule of thumb I use, always use the stronger piece, and if that's the case, then the queen will get the first go. Okay, if that doesn't work, then I'm going to look. If that doesn't work, I'm going to look at the bishop check instead. Okay, but the rule of thumb says if there are two pieces that can give check, the piece that gets preference is a stronger piece. All right, so here we go. Check. Okay, what happens here? Well, okay, there are two possibilities. Rook can take the queen, or the king can run in the corner. Okay, and by the process of elimination, we know the king cannot run because the queen is going to eat the rook, and it'll be checkmate on the back rank. Yes. Okay, so that's pretty simple. So after queen takes f7, the rook has to move, right? The rook has to take the queen, and now the bishop is pinning the rook to the king. Yes. And now my next question: who's protecting the back rank? Who's protecting the back rank? All right. So I gave you guys enough clues here to give me some feedback. Okay, what to do here? Okay. So who can tell me a variation here? Who can tell me a variation that works? Okay. So that's my question. So here we go, and give it a try. So basically, all these things, that I'm suggesting, like the power method, is a way to organize your mind to process material, to process the content. Okay, and the better organized your mind is, the smoother it's going to go, and you're going to capture all the possibilities, and it is very efficient, and you will not miss anything. Okay, and the power move method is such a device by which you can say, I'm going to look at checks first. I'm going to examine all the checks. If they don't work, I'm going to go okay, you're right. So queen to f7 is the move, and the rook is going to eat the queen on f7, and now the rook is pinned to the king. And what's your next move? And what you're thinking, okay, always kind of use the question and answer method, very Socratic. Okay, pose question to your mind. You say, okay, so you might say queen takes f7. Okay, I do that. What is black going to do? See, I raised the question, and now when you immediately raise the question, your mind has to answer it. Well, okay, queen takes f7, he's going to eat my queen. Rook takes, right? And then you ask another question of yourself. Well, what's going on? What do I do now? What do I do now? Okay, and the next thing that is going to be said, your mind says, well, use the power move method. So power move method is after queen takes f7, rook takes f7, and the power move method says what next? Okay, yes. Do I have checks? Do I have checks? That's what the power move method suggests. Do I have checks? So yes, you're right. You're right. Okay. So if queen takes f7, rook takes, and you're right. Rook to e8 is checkmate. Okay. All right. And you saw the answer, and there it is. Okay. So use the power move method, and that's that. It works. And and uh, and the reason you're practicing is to actually learn a method of thinking. Okay, so when you learn a method of thinking, you can keep reusing and reusing it, and it becomes a very efficient tool to get to do things that you could not do before. Okay, so now it becomes a skill of some sort. Okay, very good. So let's play it and see it. Okay, so yum yum, checky wecky, who's your daddy? And rook says yum yum, and then rook to e8, check and mate. And the bishop pins the rook. The rook cannot come back to block because of the pin, and this is back rank mate. Yes, and it's pretty simple. It's pretty simple. Okay, it's pretty simple, but you have to kind of develop some tools. Okay, how to think, how to process information, and things like that. All right, very good. Yeah. Okay, let me go to the next one and we'll go from there. Let's see. Oh yeah, this is a cute one. This is a cute one. All right, let's take a look at this one. What is this about? I don't know, but we're going to figure out together. Okay. Now look at this position and tell me what you see. And when I say tell me what you see, by the word see, I'm asking, tell me what you understand about this position. Okay? So anything you understand about this position, tell me. Okay, and we'll just build on it. Okay? Well, one thing I can look, straight away. I can tell the material is even, right? Material is even. All right, I can tell that. Okay, I notice that black has castle and white has not. Okay, all right, and I can tell, for example, it's equal material by using what? By using the method of elimination, for example, right? I mean, we have for example, 3 pawns here, and we have 3 pawns on this side. So these cancel. 4 pawns here and 4 pawns here, these cancel. So the pawn material is the same. Okay. Then we'll start with the queens from top to bottom. Queens are the same. They cancel. Two rooks cancel. Okay. Two bishops cancel, and knight cancel. So we have cancel everything. It's the same. Okay. So one thing you can do is just cancel things which are alike, and then see what the difference is, and then if there's a difference, you can evaluate, for example, what the numerical difference is and who has more material, yada yada yada. You see what I'm saying? Anyway, all right. So any thoughts on this position? Any thoughts? Can you identify anything that might be useful? It is white to play, and John Nunn in John Nunn, yeah, in one of his books, he talks about something called LPDO, loose pieces drop off, and loose pieces which are not connected to anything, to anyone on their side. So basically, they are pieces that have no friends, so to speak. Okay, so if you comb the black position, you will notice something. Okay, what piece does not have friends? That's my question. In black's position, which piece does not have friends? And that's this piece here on A8. So the piece on the A8 has no friends. You see that? Okay. And a piece that has no friends is a weakness. So now we have identified a weakness in the position. Okay. And weaknesses must be attacked. All right. So now what you need to do is to create a second weakness and create a double attack. All right. Double attack. Now notice that the bishop, oh, excuse me, I made an error here. Let me correct it. Yeah, notice this. The bishop here is attacking the h7 square. Now, if my queen was lined up on this diagonal, I can threaten checkmate, right? You see that? And also the queen from the e4 square will be attacking the LPD, or the loose piece. Okay? So this becomes a pivot point this becomes e4 becomes a pivot point, okay, uh, to get to both weaknesses, the king and the rook on a8. You see that? All right. So we located the first weakness, and now we have to create a second weakness. And the second weakness will be the position of the black king. I'm going to create a mismatch. So you see, if I put my queen on e4, we have one attacker and zero defenders, right? And if I put queen here, I would have queen and bishop on this diagonal attacking this twice, and right now it's guarded twice with the knight and the king. So you see, I can create a mismatch against the rook, but the ratio of attackers to defenders on the king side is 2 to 2. So what do I do? All right, what do I do? Any thoughts? Any thoughts, anybody? All right, let me see something quick. Duck is here. Yes. All right, so yeah. So now the question is, how do we create? Okay, so we have a mismatch already against the rook on a8, but the ratio of attackers to defenders against h7 is 2 to 2. Okay, so it's the same. So what we do then, we change. So basically, in order to create a favorable mismatch, there are two ways to do it. Okay, so let me just cover that point. Okay, if you're attacking a target, you have to and you want and you want to win that target. Okay, what you need to do is create a mismatch, a favorable mismatch. So one way to do when you're attacking something, you either add another piece into the attacking group, and then if it was like, for example, 2 to 2 before, by adding a piece to attacking group becomes now 3 to 2, and now you can win the target, right? Or another way to do it is to subtract something from the defensive group, okay, and therefore you can create a mismatch. So there are two methods, okay, to create a mismatch: adding an attacker to the attacking group, or subtracting something from the bottom, and therefore creating a favorable mismatch. Okay, so those are two ways. Right. So let's go back to the position and see how that might work. Okay. So again, to recap, if the queen is here, I know the knight can take my queen, but let's just forget about that for the moment. If I play queen to e4, I'm attacking the rook. Okay, and there's one attacker and zero defenders. So we have a favorable mismatch on this diagonal, right? So if I put my queen on e4, okay, I'm attacking h7. I'm attacking it twice with the queen and the bishop. Okay, he happens to defending h7 twice himself with the king and the knight. All right. Okay, so I have located the first weakness, and now I'm trying to create a second weakness. Okay, and the way I do that is I move the defender, and now I can play queen to e4. And now let's look at the math now. Okay, one attacker, zero defenders. Two attackers, one defender. Okay. So let's do it this way. Let's do it this way. One attacker, zero defenders. Two attackers, one defender, which is the king, and we can subtract it 1 to 0 also. Okay? So now we have a favorable mismatch on both targets. But we found the first target by observation, and then created a second target by deductive reasoning. And that's the way it works. And now it might something, and then we can continue. If he stops the mate, we'll take the rook, right? And and uh, and if he wants to save the rook by playing something like this, well, then we can take the king, and it's checkmate. Okay, so this is some of the thought process um, that takes place either consciously or somewhat unconsciously, and we find a solution. Okay, very good. All right, so now let's move on to the next one. See what we can find on the next one that can be useful for us to become stronger players. All right, so this is a fun one, and yeah, this is a fun one, and let's do it. Now, You know, I mean, after going through the exercise, and and then you go through the exercise, and then you can see the variations, and then you should ask yourself a question: what did I learn from this? Okay, and if you can verbalize what you learned from this, then actually you have learned something. Okay, if you have a difficulty stating what you have learned, well, maybe you didn't learn that much. Okay, um, so let's look at this. So if you look at this position, what do you see? What do you see? Tell me. Okay, so what does this mean? Okay, we're minus two, right? We're minus two. And how did I find we're minus two? I cancel the queens, I cancel the two pawns here, and then there's a mismatch with the bishop and a pawn. Bishop is, let's say, three, pawn is one, we're minus two. So I can say we're minus two, and it doesn't look it doesn't look promising in terms of long run. Okay, so the only thing that can save us now is it is our move. That's some kind of advantage, and we have to now look for checks and maybe get a perpetual check, or maybe play checks. It might lead to checkmate. So now, how do I start? How do I start? That's the question. All right. So what are the checks? Well, I only have one check here, right? Queen to h5, yeah. And what's going to happen when I do that? Well, the king is going to go here. So what you do now, you just follow. I mean, you should be kind of, looking at this like watching TV. You're just following a movie. Okay, so you can detach yourself that you are an actor and you're more observer. Okay, I play queen to h5, king goes to g8, I make a little bird on h7, king goes to f8, and then do I have any more checks? Yes, I can move here and play a check. What do I see? What do I see? King is on f8. Can the king come up? No, because of the pawn. Can the king come up? No, it's obstructed. Looks like a checkmate. Okay, so you do that, right? And then let's put it in the board and see if it works. So queen to h5 check, king to g8, queen to h7 check, king to f8, and mate. Okay, and then you go back and you say, what can I take away from this position as something I've learned? Okay, what was the lesson here? Okay, what's the lesson here? Okay, well, I know the lesson could be I have played power moves, checks, checks, and check. Okay, so when you're pursuing the king and you're doing a king hunt, you're using a weapon called checks. Okay, move after move after move, the rule of checks. Follow a check and check and check, and it's mate. Okay, so I know. So this could be something that you can take away in terms of learning something from that example. All right then. So now let me set up the next one, and yeah, look at this one. Let's set up this one, and we'll go from there. Here it is, and let me take it back. Okay, so here's the position, and I'm going to let you guys kind of talk to me a little bit about this position and tell me what you think of this position and what do you see here, what do you understand here, and you know, I mean, is there anything you understand about this position? Look at it and just kind of brainstorm. Okay, and what you're doing by brainstorming, you're just collecting information. Okay, you're collecting information. Okay, so to find the solution, you collect verbal information. Okay, and then at some point you'll be collecting visual information, and that'll be called calculation. Okay, and the more information you can feed your mind, the more information you can feed your mind, okay, the better the mind has a chance to reach a point of clarity and understand what needs to be done and how it's going to be done. You feel me? Do you feel me, people? Okay, can we have a little excitement here? Maybe I should change the music a little bit, a little more upbeat. Let me take a look. Let me take a look. Okay, let's do this. Let's do this. Let's see how this sounds. Oh yeah, baby. Oh yeah, I feel it already. Can you guys hear that? Can you guys hear this? Can you hear the music? I just changed it. Okay, if you can hear me, you can text me and say something. All right. Let me see that you're breathing, that there is a pulse. Is there a pulse? Don't be shy, give it a try. Don't run away, stay and play. Help the punk, and the monk. Have a nice day. All right, all right. We have a signal from outer space. There's life there. All right. Houston, whatever. Okie dokie. So here's the next position. Yes. So, Capital. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Don't be shy. Don't be shy. Step forward. Do it. Man up. All right. So let me tell you how I see this position. And here we go. So materially speaking, okay, we have 2 points or 2 points, those cancel, 2 points or 2 points, those cancel, queens cancel, and the difference is rook and the bishop. Okay, let's say rook is 5, let's say bishop is 3, we are -2. All right, so materially it looks pretty bad for us. We're -2. Yo, brother, yo, I see a yo. Very nice. There's pulse. There's pulse. You're breathing. All right. So, so that's the way I see it. We're -2, and if if black consolidates, I mean his material advantage is going to tell eventually. All right, and we need to do something quick. To do something quick. Now, what is quick? What is quick here? Okay, what is quick? Okay, what are you thinking? What is quick? We have to use the power move method, right? And what is the power move method? How do we use it here? Anybody? Anybody? Somebody? Anybody? Everybody? And by the way, press the follow button. Yes, follow me, Mr. Awesome. That's me. Queen G7. Really? Really? Are you smoking something? Are you on drugs? Let me take a look at this. Queen to G7 here. Why can't the king yam it? And the queen is a casualty. Hello, brother. Hello. Oh, oh, I see. All right. Okay, but you know what? You know what? Okay. One of the things that you're doing right, you're listing all the checks, correct? Your move is a check, yes? Yes? Queen to h7 is a check. So actually you're looking at checks. So that's a good thing. Okay? But before you look at checks, you have to list all the checks. Okay? Make a mental list of all the checks. And then you can prune those choices and eliminate some of the checks. And maybe the last check that's standing is the one that's going to work. Okay? So let's see how I think about this, and you tell me if it makes any sense. All right? So I have a check here, makes no sense. The queen dies. Okay? I have a check here. Okay? And I have a check here. Okay, those are my choices. In the meantime, the queen is threatening to take my queen. All right? And me taking the black queen makes no sense because I'm losing a -2, right? All right. So I have to keep the queen alive. I need to keep the queen alive. Yes? All right. So what do I do? Now the rule of thumb I gave before, the queen can give check and the bishop can give check. And the rule of thumb I gave before, if you have a choice between two checks, use the stronger piece. Now, in this situation, it will not work because if I use the stronger piece by taking on h7, the king is going to go to f8. And when I continue checking, the king is going to escape. Okay? All right? So that's what's wrong with queen takes h7. And by the way, all of these were checks, right? Check and check. Two checks, but the king escapes. Yeah? Okay. Now what happens if I take with the bishop? Okay? I go bishop check. Okay? Now my question is, can the king escape there? Yes or no? Answer that. So if I play bishop takes h7, can the black king escape to f8? That's the first question. Who can tell me? This is a no-brainer, people. No-brainer. You know? And what is a no-brainer? It takes no brains to figure it out. It is observation. Okay? Can the king go here to f8? Can it go to f8? That's the question. Can the king go to f8? What do you think? Yeah, absolutely correct. Absolutely correcto. Oh, oh, we have a new guy. Clark Houst. Welcome, welcome, welcome. That's correct. The king cannot go there. Okay? The king cannot go there. So it suggests that queen takes h7 allows the king to run away. Yes? Okay? So we have to break the rule of taking with a stronger piece and take with a lesser piece. So we play check and the king is in the corner. Now when the king is in the corner, the king is frozen. And what does that mean? It means that king has no moves. It's frozen, it's a statue. Okay? And that's always a good thing for the attacker. So after bishop h7, king goes to the corner, h8, and it's white to play. In the meantime, the queen is threatening to trade out to take this, right? Okay, so what white needs to do is continue attacking and keep the queen alive. Okay, now here's the lesson that's very important. Are you ready for the lesson? Hello there. The lesson is the triangle. We're going to make a triangle. It's a geometrical pattern, triangle, and that's going to help us deliver checkmate. Okay? Now, what am I talking about? What am I talking about? Let's take a look. Okay? What I didn't. That's not my move. Excuse me. So this is the position. Let me take it back. So I play check, and the king goes in the corner. So the king is frozen. Okay? And the black queen is attacking my queen, right? And I want to keep my queen alive. Okay? He's going to munch it, right? So that means I have to shield my queen from being taken, and that means I put a shield up with the bishop, and the bishop forms a triangle. So this is the apex of the triangle, that's the base, and that's the base. You see that? So if I connect the dots, if I can connect the dots. Wait a minute, let me see how this works. Okay, hold on. Let me make the colors again. Okay, here we go. One more time, please. Okay, I'm failing, but I'm trying. Okay, hold it. Why can I? Okay, here we go. Okay, now notice the bishop is attacking h7 and the bishop's attacking f7. Now when we connect all the dots, we have a triangle. Do you see what I mean by triangle? Do you see what I mean by triangle? Okay, and now the bishop has created a triangle, and the white queen will travel at the base of the triangle, h7 and f7, and it's going to deliver mate. So this is a device, okay, that you need to know, okay, when you're attacking with the queen and bishop. All right, so now let's go back and see how it goes. So checky wecky, who's your daddy? And then the shield and the triangle, and now the queen follows the base of the triangle and gives mate on f7. Okay, you see that, guys? Did you see that? Okay, roll call. Roll call. Let me see. Can I type this? Roll call. Wait a minute. Isn't that cute? So who understands this stuff that I just showed? All right. So who's present in the room, in the chat room? Who's still there? Okay, good, good. Thank you for the signal. I feel now rejuvenated. Okay, because I'm not alone. All right. Now, so this next lesson is the lesson that you see in the diagram. This is an important lesson, and yeah, I think I learned this concept actually from a book by Aaron Nimzovich called My System. I never read the My System completely. When I was reading it, I just took out what I could understand from it, and this is one of those positions I understood. And when I look at it, you know, I know the source where I gained this knowledge. All right, and now, dear streamers, I'm your source, and here we go. Now, what we have here is two rooks in the seventh rank. They're very powerful. Okay, so when you play chess, if you can put two rooks in the seventh rank, that's a big deal. Okay, that's going to help you because it gives you a couple of benefits, two benefits. Number one, if usually pawns are on the seventh, and by having two rooks on the seventh, you'll be able to munch those pawns. Okay, and secondly, you imprison the black king on the eighth rank. Okay, so not only will you be able to win pawns on the seventh rank, but you're going to be able to play for checkmate also. Now, in this position, in this position, the black king has two squares he can run to. Okay. Now, if you have seen, maybe it was pattern number one. In pattern number one, if you have seen that, you have seen, for example, if let's say, let me just move the rook here. You see now the rook only has one square to run to, h8, yeah. So if the king only has one square to run to, the two rooks on the seven can give checkmate. Do you understand me? If the king only has one square to run to, the two rooks can give checkmate. But in this position, the two rooks, okay, the king has two squares to run to instead of one, and you cannot give checkmate with the two rooks when the king has two squares to run to. Okay, so now the rooks need help, and the help comes from where? Where does the help come from? The help comes from the h6 pawn. Okay, all right, all right, and let me show you how this works. So now remember the power move method is checks and captures, and then checks in two or capture in two. So we start with a check. It is a check. Okay. We start with a check. It's a check. We start with a check. It is a check. Okay. And now we can do this check. And that is the point of h6. Okay. If there was no pawn, on h6, okay, the king will be able to eat the rook on g7. Okay. Okay. Any questions? Any questions? Any statements? Any declarations? Confessions? Can you hear the music? Can you hear the music? Tell me that. Who can hear the music? Tough crowd today. Tough crowd. Okay then. Okie dokie. All right. Let's look at this position and make some sense of it. We have a wedge on f6. We can make a little bird by putting the queen to g7, or hang a fruit on the branch, whatever you prefer. All right, so that's the mating pattern. Okay, so it's white to play. And what do you think he does? What does he do? Anyone? Okay, so he can play queen here, right? So he can play check in two. So by playing here, you make a threat. Okay, and next move is a check. All right. So if you like, you can label this way. Okay, the power move method is made of checks. Hello, it's made of checks, captures, and threats. Okay, and what are threats? Threats are mate in two. I'm sorry, check in two or capture in two. Those are threats. Okay, so the power move method is checks or captures or threats. So there are three levels here that compose the power move method. Three levels, three parts. Let me see. Three, 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 three. Okay. Three. Checks, captures, and threats. And what are threats? Well, what is a check? Check is attacking the king. What's a capture? I take something. And what's a threat? A threat is either check in two or capture in two. That's what a threat is. That's the way I'm going to define it. Okay? All right. So in this position here, okay, we have a, okay, do we have a check? I don't have a check. Do I have a capture? I don't have a capture. So that means I have to use a threat. And what is a threat? A threat is a check in two. So I'm going to go here. This is one, and this is two. There. Okay? So now I can have a check in two, and that's a threat. Yes? All right? So what do? I make the move. I make the threat to play check in two. He cancels it. Okay? Now when he cancels, the king is frozen. The king is frozen. And for the attacker, that's a good news. That's very good news. Okay? And now, when the king is frozen, we're looking for sacrifice. Okay? We're looking for a combination. Okay? That's going to seal the deal. And we can, and now the question is, what is the move? And to help us, we go back to the power move method. And the power move method is what? What is the question that you should be asking if you use the power move method in this position? What is the question? Do I have a check? Right? That's the question. And what is the answer? Do I have a check? What is the answer? The answer is yes, I do have a check, right? And how many do I have? How many checks do I have? Okay, it seems I only have one check, because if I come here, the rook is going to eat it. But if I take h7, the king is going to eat it, right? But I open the h file, right? And my rook can now go to the h file. So by taking the pawn on h7, I'm removing the wall that's protecting the king. Okay? That means I have to sacrifice my queen to make a hole in the wall, and then I bring the rook, and then I can access the king. Okay, you see that? That's the concept. Okay, so do you understand the concept? So let's take a look at it. So here we go. Make a threat. He cancels, and now check, and check again. Okay, so the power move method is based on threat, check, and check. Right? You see that? Okay. So tell me something, guys. Do you think this is useful or not? All right. If you're not following me, make sure you do follow me. Press the heart button and follow the Punk Monk Z. For two reasons. I'm fun maybe. And the second reason, you might learn something. That can't be that bad. All right. Now, look at this position. Three pawns against three pawns. Who can tell me anything about this position? Anything. Well, 3 and 3 is the same, right? Even Steven, baby. All right. Besides that, any other thoughts? Any other thoughts? I'm listening. I don't want to push you guys. I don't want to push you. But don't be shy to speak up. All right. So this is called, in chess literature, it's called a breakthrough. Breakthrough. Now, what is a breakthrough? Breakthrough is making a bunch of moves, and the result of that is a creation of a pass pawn. And of course, when you have a pass pawn, that will become a queen. All right. Now the question is, we have three pawns to three pawns. It's the same, identical, and the only difference is that the white pawns have crossed the equator and they're deep inside black territory, and they're closer to the promotion squares. You see that? And because the white pawns are closer to the promotion squares, maybe I can give up two pawns to get one through. All right. And the way this works is you push the pawn, the central pawn, you push it forward. Okay. And let me just go back one. You push it forward, and when you push it forward, you're threatening to take here and make a queen, or you threaten to take here and take a queen. You see that? All right. So black has to take the pawn on b6, yeah? And we'll stop here. Now, when you see this position, you already should know which pawn will become a queen. The pawn that will become a queen is a pawn that has no pawns in its path. That's the one that's going to become a queen. All right? Okay. But this pawn might be able to stop the a pawn, so you use this pawn here to deflect the b pawn, and now I'm threatening to take here and then make a queen. Yes. So black has to take the c pawn, and now the a pawn runs through, and in two moves it's going to become a queen, and white wins. All right. So push the pawn. That's the center pawn, right? And now if he takes with this way, okay, if he takes this way, who can tell me which pawn is going to become a queen? Is it going to be a pawn or the c pawn? Which pawn will become a queen, the a pawn or the c pawn? And the answer is it will be the c pawn this time. Why? Because there's nothing in the path of the c pawn. This pawn is unopposed. All right. But if it goes here, the b pawn might eat it. So what we do now, we deflect the b pawn by playing this move, a6, and now we're threatening to eat the b pawn and make a queen. Yeah. So the b pawn has to eat the a pawn, and now there's nothing in the way to stop the c pawn from advancing, and therefore the c pawn advances to c6, and in two moves will come a queen, and white wins. So this is called breakthrough. Breakthrough. And so breakthrough usually is sacrificing a bunch of pawns in order to create a pass pawn, and a pass pawn will equal a queen, and therefore whatever you have sacrificed will be recouped when the pawn promotes to a queen, and that's how you win. It's called breakthrough. All right. All right. So that was pretty simple. Pretty simple. All right. So let me see what this is about. Oh, I love this one. This one I coined myself. I gave it a particular name. I gave this a particular name. And before I tell you what it is, I'll give you guys a chance to look at it. And if you want, you can give me some feedback. what thoughts you have about this position. It is white to play, and what thoughts do you have about this position? Okay, you might say, I'm clueless. That's a thought. Okay, you can say that. Okay, or you can make an observation and just kind of tell me the observation you have. Or you might have an idea how to play it. If that's the case, do tell. Do tell. Don't be shy. Give it a try. Don't run away. Stay and play. Help the monk have a nice day. Oh, yeah. Oh, by the way, people, if you don't know, I stream Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Yeah. And Mondays and Fridays, I create kind of instructional content. And Wednesdays, I chat and I play. Chat and play. So if you want to play me, you can challenge me on Wednesdays. Okay? So right now, 3 times a week, I'm streaming. I might change it to 4. Maybe I'll let another day to play you guys. So I'll have 2 days of chat and play. That might be fun. I did kind of enjoy that a lot, actually. And I might increase it to 2 days. But we'll see. And it all starts at 1 p.m. Pacific. Yeah, baby. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. All right. So nobody has no. So you guys are clueless, right? You guys are clueless, and so let me share you my thoughts. I call this the swinging monkey. I call this the swinging monkey, right? And why is that? Let me show you. All right. So what I want to do, I want to push the pawn. I want to push the pawn to a8 and make a queen. If I make a queen, maybe the rook is going to eat my queen, and I'll take back with the rook, and I'll have a rook, extra rook. Yeah. So this is what I'm thinking. So this is the swinging monkey. The rook is the monkey. Is going to swing to the extreme corner, right there. Okay, and then I'm going to push the pawn and make it a queen. And when the rook takes the queen, I'll come back from the corner and pick up the rook, and that's how I win. Okay, the swinging monkey. Now, does anybody have thoughts about what I just said? Any thoughts? Does anybody have thoughts about what I said? Well, one thought I would have is when the rook swings over to the corner for me to push the pawn, okay, why can't the rook eat the pawn right away on a7, okay, and win the pawn? And the answer is you can play rook to h7 and do an x-ray and pick up the rook. You see that? Okay, let's see how this works in practice. All right. So swinging monkey swings. Whoa! It's there. And now, for example, if the king went to attack the rook, we can see a clear illustration how we're going to promote. And after this, we do this, and this is a no-brainer. This is known as a theoretical one game for white, and there's no pawns. So when you have no pawns in the end game, you have to have a value of +5 to win, and the rook is up 5. That means I have enough sufficient force to win. Okay, and it's a force win. So when you don't have pawns, okay, you have to have a piece that has a value of 5 or greater. Okay, and in this position, okay, we have a value of 5, and therefore we can win. Okay, all right. Now let's go back. Let's go back. So after the swinging monkey swings, what happens if the rook takes on a7? And now we have this move. It's called X-ray. Some books call it a skewer, but I call it the X-ray because the rook can see through the king, and the target will be the rook on a7. Okay, and then when this happens, we can play yum yum. Okay, and it's a one position. All right. Okie dokie. Okie dokie. Now, all right. Let's look at this endgame position, which is kind of fun. Okay, black has more material. He has two pawns extra, and black is going down the board. So if it's black to play, black is going to win, move the king over, and then eventually use his pawns to win the game. And that's it. The good thing for us, it is black to play, right? It is black to play. Now notice something. The pawn cannot move because it's blocked, and this pawn cannot move because it is pinned. All right? All right. So these two objects, those two pawns are immobilized. They have no mobility. Okay? The only pieces that have ability is the king and the bishop, right? Okay. So by playing this move, you make the king immobilized also. Now the king and the two pawns are immobilized, right? Okay. And now it's black to play. So the pawns cannot move, the king cannot move. And now black is in a Zugzwang. And what is a Zugzwang? Zugzwang is a situation where you're forced to move, and any move you make will lead to a loss, or your position is going to collapse, and you lose the game. And now the only thing that can move here in this position is the bishop, right? And when the bishop does move, we can do checkmate, and it's all over. Okay, so if we go back, what do we learn here? We learn by playing this move here, king to c7, we create a Zugzwang, and we have domination. The king dominates the black king, okay, and the bishop dominates this bishop here, okay, and the pawns have lost mobility, okay, and then after the bishop moves, you take the pawn on b7 is checkmate. All right, so that's the way this looks, and that's the way it is. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. All right, okay, then let's see what's left here. Let me see what's left, people. Oh yeah, these are simple ones. Okay. All right. All right. All right. So, dear streamers, who's still with me? Send me a signal. Send me a signal. Otherwise, I probably will conclude for the day, and I will see you guys Monday. At 1 p.m. Pacific. All right then. So, oh, what? You're back? Are you back? Are you back? Did you wake up? Capital. Capital. What's happening? Well, you just showed up for me to finish the show, and I'll put the sign up. And thank you for joining me. I hope you picked up some stuff. And this is Punk Monk Z. If you're not following me, do follow me. And if if you like the stream, you can support if you wish. And oh, you never left. Okay. You never left physically or mentally? Yeah. Anyway, what did you think? What did you think about these patterns? Did you pick up anything? All right then. So did you pick up anything from the patterns? Did you learn anything? Is there something new or is this old stuff? I'll probably do patterns number three at some point. So stay tuned. Okay. This is pattern number two. You can go back and watch number one. Well, thank you very much. Yeah, very good. I'm glad that that's the case. Thank you. And yeah, and I'll bring more instructional material. And it's always nice for people to interact with me when when I'm streaming, and I think it's been much more enjoyable for me. And so don't be shy to jump in and say whatever you like. And it's always good to do that. Okay, and there's no wrong answers. There's no mistakes. Okay, it's all part of being human and learning. So no big deal. But in the meantime, I I wish you a good day, good night, good morning, whatever, and I'll see you again, and I'll see you Monday. Take care, and I'm signing out. Punk Monk Z, baby. Later, alligator.